To no longer recognize yourself is the start of the journey to finding yourself. When Tam said, buy yourself the damn flowers, she meant business, worked on business, talked business, and delivered business. So on this particular video, we're going to be talking about self-concept, the idea of what you think of yourself and how the world sees you. And in the video, I'm going to be talking about what I learned from the book, how I can apply it, and obviously the most important part, the review, what I think about the book, honest part I'll be telling you about this book. And then to the most exciting part is that two of you are going to be having this book in your book library, because I've decided to be generous and give two of you, this book. You just have to enter the giveaway, because I feel like some of you, or two of you, or a couple of you need to buy yourself, all of you, let's just say that, need to buy yourself the damn flowers. All you have to do is to leave a comment down below. You have to share this video on your Instagram and tag me, obviously, and you'll enter the giveaway and have this book, and let me know what you think about this book after you have read it. Okay, so the book itself has 3 parts. It has part 1, part 2, and part 3. If you see me reading from this book, just understand that I am just going to show you some of the things I've highlighted, and that would help you. So the whole book itself, I feel like it centers around the concept of the self-concept, the idea of how you see yourself, how you perceive yourself, and the kind of things that happen to you because of how you think you are, the perception of who you think you are. She starts off in chapter 1 by explaining everything to do with self-care and how everything that you know about self-care is wrong, and she's going to reprogram your mind to make you understand that it's not what you think it is. And she's absolutely right in this chapter. I was just agreeing with every single thing she said. The whole idea of self-care, we have forgotten that there are self-care habits and there are self-love habits. Self-care and self-love, they work hand in hand. So she talks about the self-care, the idea of like taking care of yourself and how you look and how you feel, and also the idea of loving yourself for the authentic person that you are. And that is where the self-concept of your own self comes in, because we have a concept of what we think the world thinks of us, and we forget exactly who we are as human beings. She talks about the tips that you can use. Like self-care in itself is what everyone thinks you do. The masks that people wear, having a bath, going for a walk in the woods, having matcha, having an aesthetically pleasing flat, maybe living in a condo, or having that clean skin. That is all what they tell you that loving yourself is. But in actual sense, loving yourself can be as simple things as setting boundaries, talking to yourself with kinder words, being true to your own self, allowing yourself to be your authentic self and not worry about what you say, what you do, where you walk, and places that you walk in. In the book, she says that you can do all the elaborate routines in the world, but if you can't deal with the negative thoughts and patterns that hold you back, you'll find it difficult to make progress. And then she talks about here the self-care habits and the self-love habits, which is very important. It doesn't matter how much masks you put on. It doesn't matter how much baths you take. It doesn't matter how many times you walk in the forest or in the greens or in the woods. If you don't come to terms with who you are, accept who you are, speak light about your own self and your own life, then you're going to be going through the same cycles and the same routines over and over again. You're going to go through the same relationships back to back. Like she said, she had 4 relationships in the space of 2 years, which makes sense later on when I explain why that might have happened to her based on what she explained in the book. Then she talks about pain. Now, pain is something that I say can create a concept of just what we are. And let me tell you about something to do with self-concept. Self-concept is thinking like this, okay? You want to attract all the good things in your life. You want to attract money. You want to attract good health. You want to attract a happy family. You want to attract maybe being someone that travels in different countries and having that kind of lifestyle. But the way in which you see yourself is literally this person that can never ever have money, can never be appreciated in the job, doesn't see, herself traveling anytime soon, maybe in the next 10 years. But then you expect these things to happen to you, but you see yourself this way. So you want to go to the North Pole, but your energy is going to the South Pole. Your vibration of you, of the essence of you, is in the South Pole, but you want to attract the North Pole. The two will never meet. The South and the North would never ever meet. You have to start redirecting yourself to face the North Pole by reaffirming those things and saying to yourself, okay, I don't have money now, but I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that I have money to live in the idea that I want to live in. If people have said that you're such a miserable person, you're a very sad person, you're a weird child, say to yourself, no. I am not a weird child. I am just a different kind of person, and I have a different box in which I live in. You have to realign yourself in that kind of way. So she goes on and she explains in the other chapter that I loved. And just to let you know, guys, I'm going to be talking about the chapters that I love. All the chapters were beautiful, but the ones that connected with me. So where she talks about that pain is not personal. And oh my God, when she mentioned that, I almost choked. I was like, what do you mean? Pain is not personal. The pain has happened to me. Why is it not personal to me? But she says that we go through things like adversities and things in life. And if you take pain as a personal thing, then you're never ever going to go through it. You have to take pain as a way, as a learning curve, as something that takes you from one level to another level. You can't let it be the thing that stops you from getting to another level. And in this situation, she hints about breakups, and she says breakups can be very horrible. Of course, we all know. It doesn't matter what kind of breakup. It can be a breakup from a relationship, a romantic relationship. It can be a breakup from friendships. It can be a breakup from family as well. Or maybe it's something you've been fully attached to. Breakups are horrible regardless of what kind of breakup it is. But she says that breakups become an opportunity to endless possibilities and opportunities waiting to be uncovered. In the chapter itself, what I loved about it, she goes on and she explains this whole thing that think about, and I always say this as well, every relationship you've been with is a learning curve. If you treat it like it's the most horrible thing that's happened to you and you don't understand the world and now you start to hate the world and the people around you, then you have just created a perspective, a self-concept that you're going to live by every single day that never yields you, never moves you from one level to another, and you keep going round and round in circles. She makes this whole thing that write a list of every ex that you've had in your life and write the things that you learned from that relationship. What did I learn from this relationship? What did I get from this? What lessons did I learn? And reapply them over and over again. That way you become more confident, you become more self-sufficient within yourself, and you understand, because pain is a horrible thing, but if you use that pain in a good way, it is powerful. But you have to remember this, that the way in which you respond to pain is what determines the next choices that you make in life. Then the chapter that I feel so overwhelmed that I'm going to talk about is where she talks about friendship breakups. Now on there, the top of it, she says, to outgrow a friend is normal and necessary part of life. It is actually a milestone to be celebrated because it represents the evolution you need to fulfill your potential and reach the kind of life you dream about. Okay, I even put here self-note to myself that this is a point to talk about. So before you think about how people should treat you, ask yourself how you treat yourself. If you're treating yourself with, let's give an example. You want people to be kind to you. You want people to love you. You want people to understand you. You want people to be there for you. How are you treating yourself? The opposite side of you, you don't love yourself. You're very angry at yourself. You're not kind to yourself. You're not understanding to yourself. But you expect other people to treat you in that kind of way. You're living in a lie, and you're living in a situation whereby it's not going to help. With that being said, she goes on and she explains here that friendships, however long-standing, do not define your life. Now, this year, and it's something that I haven't yet addressed or talked about at all yet, I had a friendship breakup that I had. Now, for me, I do have boundaries and I do have certain things that I put in place when it comes to things like friendships. I hate confrontations. It's just in my nature. I hate going back and forth. It's just in my nature. I have this kind of adult understanding. I'm calling it an adult understanding because that's what it is. Of like, if you do have a problem with me, if you hold it, that's your burden to carry. But if you hold it and bring it over to me and we talk about it, then it's a burden shared. So I'm that kind of person that if you have already created a perspective of who I am as a person, yeah, or a perspective of an idea of an event that has happened without having discussed it with me, then stay with that perspective. And I'm not going to change that perspective that you have because you have already drawn a conclusion. You haven't included me in this. You haven't respected me enough to understand how I'll respond to this. So with that being said, it was kind of a situation like that happened. I had a friendship breakup that I had this friend was like a sister, and we had been together for the longest time, like over 7 to 8 years. The friendship had gone through all the other things, university, colleges, because I was quite a little bit older than her. We've gone to the first car drives, the first ever trip abroad, all those kind of things that we've done them all together. But it came to a point whereby I couldn't fight for that friendship anymore. I had to just let it go. And it felt really heartbreaking, but I carried on doing with whatever I did. I didn't fight for it because there was no reason for me to fight for it, because nothing was presented for me on the table that was worth fighting for. And it was heartache. It was horrible. And when I was reading Tam's book, that part, I really highlighted it so much. Which really caught my heart. And he said, remember that you are the main character. Your life is like a movie, and if things stayed the same with zero plot twists, well, what would we want to watch? Yan. Literally, that's what she said. And if anyone is watching this and you have a friendship that you're too scared to let go, and you know how the person is treating you and you feel like you're not satisfied, there is a point in the book where she says as well that you don't have to wait for things to go really bad for you to let go. Like, you don't have to wait for that relationship to go sour for you to kind of like say, I'm done with this relationship. Sometimes it is done and that chapter is closed. And everything in life, it always happens in that kind of way of saying that every person comes in your life for however long in your life to teach you a lesson, you know, to grow. Or sometimes they can't take you to the end goal of where you want to go. And I think she also feels the same, and she thinks the same, you know, in her own way of understanding. But I had a major friendship breakup. And for me, because I'm always like, dust off, let's go on, let's move on. That's just how I went on with it, because I say to myself, just because this friendship has ended does not mean I cannot have other friends, and does not mean that I cannot create other bonds as well. Maybe that person was taking up the space for other friends to come in my life. Maybe so was I doing for her. But anyways, that part of the book just caught me off guard, and it made me feel really warm. And it made me kind of like start looking at myself in a different way, because some people can lose themselves in this aspect. And she says in the book as well that to no longer recognize yourself is the start of the journey to finding yourself. Every single time you feel like you don't recognize yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror, then that's the start of the journey, because you have to see the problem before you can actually work on it. Self-doubt and self-belief. Now, the moment you start doubting yourself is the moment you've allowed people to choose what they want to do in your life. Because you doubt yourself a lot that you seek validation from other people. You doubt yourself a lot that now you're seeking another person's voice to become your opinion and run your life. Now, she says on here that every time you choose self-doubt over self-belief, judgment over acceptance, and shame over comparison, you lower your vibration, which affects the life that you live in. And this is the part that I want to talk about so much. The vibration and the energy in which you're living in. You have to check yourself, have a checklist of your own self, and understand what kind of vibration am I living in. Am I living in a higher self vibration, or I'm living in a lower self vibration? And trust and believe, you know when you're living in a lower self vibration, when things around you don't align with where you want to go, you feel a force that is pulling you back and back. Now, there is a scale on here in the book that she gives, and she says every single time you're living in a lower vibration, let's say if it's shame, 20. If it's guilt, it's 30. So she has a whole graph that I don't even think my camera will be kind enough to show you. There is a whole graph here that she explains the kind of vibration you should be living in, and you have to always aspire to live in the higher vibration of your own self, the higher self of yourself, rather than the lower self of yourself. There are times where you'll be on your lower self of yourself, but remember to tap in the higher vibration of yourself, because that is what is going to lead you. That is what is going to excuse you from those bad choices, excuse you from those environments that do not serve you, those people that do not serve you, all over in that kind of way. Then she talks about spending your year alone. Now, I've heard so many people saying, take your time alone, give yourself a break. But I've never heard anybody sort of saying that spend a year alone and immerse yourself in what you want to be. So there are some people that I've seen that have never been on their own, or I've never been single. They're always seeking out a relationship. They're seeking out someone to be with, or around with someone to feel like they love them, which is not a bad thing. There are some people who can come from a breakup, heal, get up, and move on to a new relationship. That people have the strength to do that. But if that's not you, if you want to live in a vibration that you want to live in, you have to give yourself a good amount of time to kind of cultivate and bring all that kind of energy onto your own self. So the chapter where she says spending a year alone, she says how you can be alone but not lonely. She has some key parts here that she says that if you want to spend a year alone, create this list of things that you can do. For example, she puts here a solo debt bucket list. She says, Take yourself out to dinner, sit on a cozy cafe, wake up early, go to the concert, try fruit picking, visit a museum, get a massage, book a facial. Most of these things, I kind of do them my own self, which is really a good thing. I always take time out for myself and energize myself and not suffocate myself with things that I can't. And then she has Tam's top tips, things that you can do that can help you in knots and all that kind of thing, like not being on your device, educating yourself, reading self-help books and living that kind of energy, because it can change the concept of what you think you are and allowing yourself to be in your true self. Then the last chapter that I loved in this book was setting boundaries. And for me, when it comes to setting boundaries, I'm very strong with that. Setting boundaries is self-respect, is self-love, and is living the higher vibration of your own self. When you start to set boundaries and people around you do not like those boundaries, it means that they were comfortable enough to stay in a situation that you are not happy with, but it served them. It means that it was serving them. There is one good thing that Tam wrote here that I want to read for you, that says, boundaries aren't about putting people in their place. They are actually not about other people at all. Their sole purpose is for you to take responsibility for your spiritual hygiene. I'm going to repeat that. Spiritual hygiene. Okay, spiritual hygiene within your own self is also understanding that you have to set boundaries for you to live in your own self. You can't allow any single person to walk into your house just because they have said, can I come in? Some people will ask you, can I come in? And you say, no, I don't want you to come in. Because this is not the right time for you to come in, or I don't accept your energy. Environments in which you stay in as well, the people you talk in, the people you talk with, the things that you allow. Setting boundaries puts a limit to the things you accept people to say to you, to the things that you can allow your spirit to consume, to absorb, and create an identity. Because our own identity is based on the perspective of things we hear, the things we see, and the things that we allow. So breaking away from that chain and that energy is you setting the boundaries. And even boundaries, you can set boundaries in relationships, romantic relationships, boundaries with families, your family, close or not, boundaries in any friendship, boundaries in jobs. Boundaries is just saying that, hey, hold on a minute, I'm choosing my space and I'm choosing my energy. So I'm not going to accept you to keep doing whatever you have to do because you can. No, you can do whatever you want to do, but not in my presence, or not me allowing any of that to happen. So it was a very good idea as she talked about. Now, this last part is the understanding of, it's not in the book. I think she might have hinted it here and there, but it's understanding your own past traumas and understanding things that happened to you in your younger age. So Tam herself, when she was younger, her dad left, so she never got the chance to know the dad's side and to understand the whole aspect of a dad, or growing up with a male figure. And the male figure that came in her life also left at a certain point. So she was left with this idea of like, I need to fill that void. So chasing the male side of it and understanding that I have some daddy issues here and there, but I want it to be filled. So for her, moving from relationship to relationship could not be something that was her fault, but by default it became her fault, because you need a lot of strength to understand that you've been abandoned from a young child, and you've still been abandoned at an older age, to pick yourself up and not want anything to do with her. So she was looking for that kind of safety net, and that safety net put her down and down and down. And she talked about how she was in her room and looking herself in the mirror and looking and saying, what has my life got up to? She grew up with her grandparents, so imagine all that kind of idea of growing up with, they're quite, grandparents are always quite older and taking care of you and making you the person that you are. So that whole experience of how Tam explains everything to do in this book actually makes sense. You need to read the whole entire book to get those snippets of everything that she explains, which makes sense in terms of her relationships and her life, because abandonment is a serious issue, and it's not. Some people don't get over it, okay? So we get to the most important part of this book, and it is, what do I think about this whole entire book? Now, let's start off by looking at the book itself. I am not a fan of the color, but that's just a personal thing. I'm not a pink girl. I don't like pink. I don't gravitate towards pink. I've not grown up as a girly girl because I'm the first child and I have boy brothers. What am I even saying? So I have brothers. So I've never been like so much of a girly girl. However, Tam seems to be a girly girl. She looks very girly, even when you watch her videos and everything that she talks about, she's very girly. So the color scheme for me, I think they would have made like a deeper color so it can bring out her skin tone nicely to make the book pop. But yet again, me saying that, I was reading this book when I was at work, and one of my colleagues said, oh my god, I like how that book looks like because of how the kind of effect it has. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. You know, people always have their own personal choices, and that's a very good thing. So getting into the book itself, the book is well written. It feels like Tam herself talking, because I bought the audiobook as well, to be honest with you. That's how much I enjoyed the book. She herself puts nuggets in here. This book is full of knowledge. It's the book I'm going to read during the festive season, because I want to organize myself mentally for the coming year. And I think this will be one of the books that is going to be like a nice, cozy, warm cup of tea, which I'm quite excited to read. But with that being said, is that it's executed properly. The writing style is good. The way she delivers is very good. She doesn't miss a step. And yeah, it's got different chapters, which breaks it down nicely. The unique part about this book is that she has chapter summaries and also homework, like chapter homework. Like literally, she gives you a summary of everything that you've learned in the book, and then you have a summary of things that you can do. Like there is a part of the summary that she said that get a piece of paper and write all your exes' names, and then talk about what you learned from each person's kind of relationship that you've had, ex friendships, ex this, ex that, which is good homework, and you can tick off whatever you've done. So it's like a practical book and also like a very educative self-help book. What would I rate this book? I would rate this a 5-star, a 6-star, a 7-star, a 8-star, a 9-star, a 10-star, 11, 12 if I could. But let's just go for the maximum, a 10-star, which I'm quite excited. I'm happy for Tam, and I'm going to include it in my list of my top 10 self-help books. Yeah, because I'm not underestimating Tam, but she really delivered when it came to this book. So yeah, get yourself a copy of Buy Yourself a Damn Flowers by Tam, and let me know what you think about this book, because I best believe that you're going to feel warm hugs from this book, and I'm quite excited for your new journey and all that you have to bring in life. That's to Tam, and for everyone who reads this book, I hope you have healing, I hope you have revelation, I hope you can live in a higher self and a better concept of your own self. Okay, ciao.